Hey everybody, welcome to the season finale of the Story Trek. This week I have randomly ended up in the land of lighthouses and lobsters. I'm in the northeastern corner of the United States, in the beautiful state of Maine.
It's a great place to live. You enjoy the outdoors. If you don't like the outdoors in Maine, you're probably living in the wrong state.
The scenery is simply stunning, with more than 3,000 islands and 5,000 miles of coastline.
It's got a lot of variety. There's, on the coast, there's commercial fishing. You go north and you're looking at lumber, potatoes, blueberries.
Dave Merriman is a lobster boat captain. More than 90% of the nation's lobsters come from Maine.
I think that's my favorite part about Maine is the community that we have here. It's a fishing community.
That fishing community has been a big part of Dave's life for as long as he can remember.
I grew up on my father's boat when I was a kid, and then as soon as I could, I got my own skiff and hauled traps. Mornings are my favorite time of the day. You just get on the boat. My helper and I have a little pact where we don't say anything for the first hour or so. Just take it in and enjoy the peace and quiet of it, because you can't get any more peaceful than on the ocean in the summertime when things are flat calm and the sun's coming up.
But it does have its downside.
Commercial fishing is one of the most treacherous jobs there are, but you either love it or you don't.
And you love it.
And I love it.
I love coming back down to the ocean after I've been away for a while and have the ocean smell. It's where I feel comfortable. I guess I'm a Mainer.
You're proud.
I'm a proud Mainer. Yeah.
And any self-respecting boat captain wouldn't let me get away without some dirty one.
We would like you to bait some traps for us so that you can get the full experience.
I mean, anybody can captain the boat, just drive it around. That's a boring thing.
That is kind of boring.
Okay.
Not everybody can bait traps.
No.
And you were going to do it.
Oh.
Slide it right through his eyeball. There it is. Oh, a little squirt. Good.
This is nice.
Now grab a pogie. Do the
Okay.
same thing to that poor little fella.
These guys.
There it is.
That is sweet.
And one more.
One more.
You just hang onto the string as you pull it through.
Like that.
Yep.
Okay.
Now slide it off and then wrap it around that cleat.
That is outstanding. This is a lot of fun.
I knew you'd like it.
You saved the best job for me, like you said.
This week, another trait of a Mainer is we like to treat our hosts with the most respect. Now you only have about 600 more to go.
600 more to go. All right.
Now you're an official fisherman.
Yeah, Roger. We're going to be going Ketchikan to Rudyard Bay, Walker Cove, Mirror Lake. Give us 2.5 hours and have 3 hours of fuel. We get like 150 to 200 inches of annual rainfall here.
Wow.
So this is like one of the wettest places on Earth.
Like most places in Alaska, the only way in or out of Ketchikan is by boat or plane. So I grabbed a ride with local bush pilot David Doyon.
We're flying over the Tongass National Forest. It's the largest national forest in the United States. It's about 22 million acres.
Alaska is more than 2 times larger than Texas, and you cannot drive a car to 82% of its communities.
Everything's situated on the water, so these float planes are the way to get around, They're like the taxis, the school buses, the freight haulers, and we have different size airplanes for different missions, so it's like everybody needs to be accessed by the water.
And David's fleet does it all, from sightseeing to government contracts with fish and wildlife.
It's like getting up every day and go playing, and have a cool hot rod like this and, wilderness to go play in and show it to people and do all these cool jobs. I couldn't get any better.
I'm going to slow her down just a little, Dave.
Actually, it could get a little better when David factors in working with his son, who flew up alongside of us.
Just hold that line, no move, I'll come over to the other side. I'm probably luckier than anybody around to have found something that I truly passionately love to do. And working with my son and doing that and building up these cool airplanes has just been, a bonus, a plus, It's just like this great feeling of freedom that I've never got anywhere else in life, you know, this kind of feeling of freedom, you know.
Okay, we'll go to that house next. Christina.
Hello.
I have your dish. The cobbler was fantastic.
Hello.
How are you?
Great.
Good. So,
Here.
It's confusing enough when our cameras show up at the door without a dish delivery. But Christina was a good sport.
but they gave us your dish.
Oh.
Said take it back.
And Christina Livingston was happy to do a quick interview.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a whole lot of amazing.
You know how I feel about that. Everyone has a whole lot of amazing. And the Livingstons redefine amazing.
This is our new home here, so.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we're gonna sign papers for that.
Nice.
And so we've just moved in a couple months ago.
This beautiful home is something Christina and her husband Scott thought was unattainable just a few years ago.
This is an amazing upgrade. Living conditions for you guys.
Oh yeah, we lived in a duplex the whole time we were in Bear Lake.
Yeah.
That was 1,100 square feet. And then we lived in the shop and the camper and then the barn.
Scott brought his family to Bear Lake when the economy was great and he needed something different.
So we kind of felt like we were going to go to the rural area somewhere and take a shot at church again.
He started a new construction business, went back to church, and life started to get harder and harder.
My two youngest siblings have cleft lip and palates. And Cameron was 2 and Allie was 3. And they had had multiple surgeries already, and we were drowning in medical debt.
Miranda was a teenager as she watched this story of trials and eventually miracles.
About to be on the street and starving.
The recession's taking our business and our income away.
Scott somehow landed some jobs, but quickly realized no matter how hard he worked, 14, 15-hour days, he couldn't make it work.
I remember coming home and I'd sit in the truck outside the house because I didn't want to go inside. Because I was realizing that when you try your absolute hardest and you do your absolute best, sometimes it's just not enough. In my case, it wasn't even close.
Scott leaned on his new devotion to God and prayed for months without an answer.
Starting to think that you can't leave me here like this. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do.
On one of the countless hospital visits for their daughter's medical procedures, Scott finally got an answer.
Standing in the hall, for some reason there was nobody around. It's because it's a pretty busy place, but there wasn't anybody around. And it was like a bolt of lightning. And it was one word, and all I heard was give.
He pondered on that for a couple of weeks.
We were back down there, standing in the same hallway. You need to give here. As clear as I could hear. I remember thinking, I don't have any money.
But he figured out what he was supposed to do. What was the answer to his prayers? Something that couldn't possibly help his family.
Give. You need to give here. You need to give the best of you. The best that you have to offer. And I'm a healthy guy. I've been sick 4 or 5 times in my life.
So Scott signed up to be what is called a Good Samaritan organ donor. Christina had no idea until after Scott agreed to donate a kidney.
How did you feel about that?
I actually really wanted to do it with him. And I felt really strongly that we should do that.
And that's just the kind of people the Livingstons are. But Christina was tested and was not a candidate. Scott learned he was a universal donor.
And that one hit me. Because at that point I knew that that's what I was supposed to do. And I remember I cried all the way home in the car by myself, thinking, figured it out.
Scott went to the hospital 2 days before his kidney would be harvested.
Then she asked me, she's like, so, do you want to meet him? And you could tell that she had a lot of anticipation. And I hadn't even thought for a second about who might get a kidney. This was totally me, totally my problem, totally my solution.
Meanwhile, the recipient, his family, the entire surgical and nursing team was in the other room, hoping Scott would say yes.
So I go in there, and there's this 5'3", barely 100 pounds young individual standing there, bawling his eyes out, all choked up and can't believe his day has arrived.
Marco Juarez was a teenager when his kidneys simply stopped growing and then failed. He had been on dialysis for 3 years.
He just couldn't hardly say anything, and I remember all of a sudden I felt like I was 10 feet tall. I hadn't felt like that in years. I felt like I had won the Super Bowl. And so I just grabbed him and I gave him a big hug and I just said, "You're gonna be okay, dude. You're gonna be okay. I can do this."
And suddenly it became about someone else, the miracle of life Scott was giving to Marco, who has become a husband and father, and Scott's close friend.
I now started my own little family. I was able to get married. Scott was at my wedding. It was amazing. Now I have 2 children. Just things that I couldn't do back then that I can do now because I feel like this kidney, like he did. One thing that he did, it changed my whole life.
Marco will never forget the moment Scott walked in that room at the hospital.
I was speechless. I just started crying because here's this man that I don't know that's gonna save my life. Nothing was offered to him to give me his kidney. He did it from the bottom of his heart.
But you also had faith that this would help you and your family out somehow, financially.
Yeah, I prayed for a solution to that specific problem, and that's the only thing that came, was go do this.
And that makes no sense.
And it makes no sense. It makes no sense at all.
But spiritual things don't often make sense.
Right, yeah, you can't explain it logically. Some atheist accountant could figure out where the money came from based on the jobs that we got and this and that and the other, but I wouldn't have been standing there with the vigor and the tenacity to go for it the way that I did had I not gone through that experience. And that came from God. I have no doubt.
I feel like it's a miracle. I mean, Scott has told me his side of the story and how we kind of met in the middle, after donating, but just his story in general is pretty amazing on, something or hearing a voice telling him to donate. It gives me goosebumps.
My dad's thing is, who is my brother?
And the answer is everyone. Scott says he feels healthier. His family is better off financially. And it's because he did what he needed to do for his brother, a man he didn't know.
It's not about a kidney so much as it's about you probably don't have all the pieces you need to build your puzzle, but you have a few that can fill someone else's. And I think God put us here in such a way that we have to share with each other for this to work.
That includes Scott sharing this story, which he says is more painful than giving a kidney.
The person that I am wants to hide and not say anything, and I really have a hard time. But I'm glad that you guys came here. I think it was a place you're supposed to end up because, help me get it out there.
That's the way I always feel, These things happen randomly, but it's not random, I had to bring that dish back anyway.
That's right. That's right.